Hi, this is Jesse Liberty for Telerik. Today we're going to take a look at some of the features of the RAD Sparkline that allow this lightweight control to have a great deal more flexibility. Let's go back to Visual Studio and create a new project. We're going to call this RAD Sparkline Features. Click OK. Say yes, we do want it to be a Silverlight 5 application. Although, as you know, this will work equally well in WPF. When the project configuration wizard comes up, we're going to click Charting and Data Visualization. All of the dependent references will be added for us. What I'd like to do now is very quickly recreate what we had in the previous Getting Started video. So we're going to need a stack panel. Inside the stack panel, we're going to add our RAD Sparkline. We'll start with a linear Sparkline. Then we'll add a scatter Sparkline, an area Sparkline, a column Sparkline, and finally let's go ahead and add a win-loss Sparkline. So there's all our Sparklines as we had them previously. Let's save that, go to the code behind, and create the data that we will use to populate these Sparklines. To do that, we're going to need a little helper method. We'll call it initialize Sparklines and let Visual Studio create a stub for us. And in here we're going to create our random number generator and a for loop to generate 20 values between -100 and +100 in a list of doubles, which we will call data. And let's set that as the item source for all of our Sparklines. This is where we were in the previous video getting started. Let's make sure that that is working. And that should look familiar. While this display is extremely helpful, there's quite a bit that we can do to enhance it and give more information to the user. Let's go back to the XAML. And in our first Sparkline, the RAD linear Sparkline, let's turn on markers. Show markers equal true, and let's run that and see what the markers do. And you can see that the linear Sparkline now has markers at each individual data point, making it a good deal more explicit, and also interestingly shows the relationship with the scatter a little bit more clearly. Another feature we can turn on is to show the high point indicator. Let's go ahead and do that both in the linear Sparkline and also in the scatter Sparkline. In fact, we can also add show high point indicators to the area Sparkline, to the column Sparkline as well. Let's run that. And now we're going to get an indicator of the highest point in our data set. And notice in the linear Sparkline there's a red dot indicating that, and you see that reflected in the scatter and in the area. On the column, that column goes solid red, and you can't miss that that's your high point, is at that column. Another feature we can add is show negative point indicators. This will change the color of every point that has a value below 0. That can be very, very helpful in these diagrams. Let's go ahead and set that in the scatter, in the column, and in the linear. It's a little subtle. You can see that the points on the negative and the linear are blue. Also in the scatter diagram are blue. And if you look at the column diagram, those columns are now blue as well. Similarly to how you can show the high point, you can show the low point. Let's set show low point indicators on each of the Sparklines where we have set the high point indicators. Let's include in that the area Sparkline and the column Sparkline. Will set the show low point indicator to true as well. And so the low point now is also indicated in red. You can see the high and low point, and in the column you can see that the low column is red, making it stand out from all of the other columns. So we're getting a good bit more information compacted into these very simple diagrams. Finally, we can add a very simple axis, which will be on the x-axis indicating the 0 point. And let's just set that for now to the linear sparkline and the scatter sparkline, and you'll see that it does enhance the utility of these two diagrams significantly, as there's a line drawn through where the 0 point is, and that's consistent with our negative markers. Now, the other Sparklines have an implicit 0 line that's an optical illusion that is being played upon you by the consistency of the drawing, but we can make that explicit by adding show axis equal true to those three other Sparklines as well. With that in place, we can run the application one more time, and now you see a very explicit 0 line for all of the Sparklines, and that can be very useful in helping illustrate with these very simple controls. I hope you've seen how easy it is to add these features to add Sparkline to greatly enhance the display. For Telerik, this is Jesse Liberty. I look forward to talking with you again very soon.